Hello and welcome back to OG Cars, and welcome back to another video featuring the Astra. Now, you're probably looking around at the snow and thinking this is December, and you're quite right. We've had this car back on the road now for about 2 months, but we've just not filmed a video on it. But here we are. We're going to do a video on everything we did to this car and just let you know how the beautiful Astra is getting on. So then here she is doing the absolute worst impression of Rudolph ever with a absolute tiny bit of tinsel. But the Astra has actually served me as a pretty decent daily for the last few months. It's done about 2,000 miles now in my ownership. I'm not going to say that's been problem free, but ultimately this is now a 35-year-old car which I bought knowing it probably needed a little bit of TLC. In that time it's taken me back and forth to Broadhaven in West Wales with my friends. It's taken us up to retro rides, and then I use it every day. This is the car that we take the dogs out in. It's the car we do the tip runs in, because you all know we're restoring the house at the moment. And yeah, it gets so much attention. I've owned a lot of cars, and I own a lot of cars, you know that, but this car honestly gets so much attention. I'll take people out in it and they'll be like, oh yeah, you get people stop you on the side of the road to ask you questions about it. Everyone just seems to love this little car. In my time owning it, we have had a few problems. I'm going to bring Owen in a second to run over those, majoritively to do with the rear. Beside that, it did go through its MOT relatively problem free. Last time we did have to do quite a little bit of work to get it through that, but that is no problem at all. And in typical Vauxhall red, as you all know, it's a bit faded. I forgot about the tinsel on the rear actually, but we have also fitted these wheel trims on it now, so it looks a little bit more fitting. Yeah, that's about it. I'm going to bring Owen in now just to talk about what we've had to do to get this car through its MOT.
So since the last video, we have replaced a few things basically to get this car through the MOT. So we had the problems with the rear brakes. It was the passenger side rear wheel cylinder here that was leaking catastrophically, and yeah, we were just losing all of the brake fluid, so terrible. And yeah, I had both rear wheels off anyway, as both the rear wheel bearings were a bit noisy, so I thought it was best to replace them at the same time. So we were going to do the passenger side rear cylinder and the rear bearings, but the driver's side rear wheel cylinder was on the way, so we ended up replacing that as well. While we were there, cleaned everything up, put it all back together, obviously put these nice wheel trims back on it. Big thanks to Andy Berryman for getting me those. And what we did as well is just gave it a good clean inside the arch and undersealed in there. But this car has actually had quite a lot of attention before. The previous owner has obviously cared enough about it to have welding done on the car and get it undersealed before, so that is why it's still a survivor and still here today.
Just quickly, because we both completely forgot to mention it while Owen was filming just then, we did do a complete service on the car as well. So it had a service, and we also did the gearbox oil. The stumps on these are sealed, so we had to reseal that as well. But it has had a full service as well, which is always good. And just before I bought it, it had the cam belt and the water pump done, which was a big plus obviously when I bought it. Now, in terms of plans for this car, unfortunately, I don't think I'm going to be keeping it long term. Now, I have listed the car up for sale, but in total honesty, I've not had a lot of interest in it. I can understand, visually, not the prettiest car in the world. Like, I love the looks of it, but obviously, as you all know, it's very faded. It's obviously had a lot of work, but never really had any body work. But I do think it does deserve to survive. The problem I'm having at the moment is it's just not a fantastic daily car for me and where I live, which I will explain now. So basically, when we bought this car, these have an automatic choke, and if you don't know about automatic chokes, they're just not very good. And the previous owner had bodged it on this car, and literally a few days into me owning it, it broke. So basically this car has no choke at all, and as you can imagine, right now where we live, it's -2. It's 1 o'clock in the afternoon, it's -2, it's absolutely freezing, and this car is really struggling with that. Now, the solution for that is to fit a manual choke, which I am going to look into, but if I'm not going to keep the car long term, then it's sort of, I might as well sell it now instead of spending even more money on the car, which I'm not going to make back, unfortunately. So it needs a manual choke, and we also think it needs a thermostat because it is just not getting up to temperature at all. So whilst the car is relatively sorted, it's had a lot of work done, it does need those two things doing ideally to get it on the road. Now, as I say, I've not had a lot of interest, and if I don't have a lot of interest, I'll get them done and I will just keep using the car. But for me, I think I need something that I can use a little bit more every day. The reason mainly for that, I've mentioned I work from home. I am sadly losing my job at the very end of this year, and I kind of need a car that I can jump in every single day and go back and forth to the train station by us, so that I can get to my new job, because I have already got a new job lined up, which is always a good thing. It's a tough one, because when you're like out on the roads and everything, it's completely fine. It is just that startup procedure. So It's fine in that sense. I've actually really enjoyed my time with it. It's never given me any major problems. It's always got me home, even when we had the issues with the brakes twice. But that startup issue is being a little bit of an annoyance because of where our drive is. It's really tight and I'm having to rev the car for a good few minutes to make sure it's up to temperature and it's not going to stall. That's the only problem I have with it right now. Let me know in the comments, should I fix it and keep the car, or should I just sell it on to someone else who can put the time and effort that this car deserves in? I'll just buy something that maybe is a little bit more mundane. I say that, I will definitely buy something that's not mundane. I'll buy something that I like. But yeah, in the meantime, here's the Astra. It's fixed. We really like this car. It's really cool. It gets so much attention, but it is up for sale. I'm open to a really sensible offer on it because I'd like it to go to the right home where it's not gonna meet its doom like most of its siblings would have over the last 20 years. But it's still here, it's still kicking, and we're really loving our time with this car. It's a good little thing, just needs a bit of TLC. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. Like, comment and subscribe, and we will see you all in the next one.